What is the real value of this money? And does it exist at all? The printing machine had been operating long before the coronavirus. We would still be in the current difficult economic situation, because we have long been moving towards the end of a long-standing debt cycle. Welcome to the Coin Post. It's been a while since we've had a cool guest, so I suggest we discuss the final instructions from Billionaire Ray Dalio. He shared his vision of the reasons that led the US and world economies to the current crisis. Is there a way out of it? What threats there are to business and ordinary people? And above all, how to protect yourself in these challenging times. I want you to know that Dalio believes the worst in the economy is yet to come, and in many ways, it's because they are creating new money without any control. But first things first, subscribe to our channel, turn on the notifications, and make yourself comfortable. Let's start. In Ray Dalio's view, the main problem is that we're facing a debt crisis, and there's no healthy way out of it. He compares the current situation to 1929 and 1932, that is, the Great Depression. Besides, we have witnessed something similar in 2008. What they have in common is that the interest rate drops to zero, and the big banks can control monetary policy, or more accurately, they do, but they have no means to further reduce the value of money. So, in a crisis, they can't help companies, businesses, or people. That is, they can't just give the money to keep companies going, businesses operating, and people buying goods and services, as well as repaying accumulated debts. I'm gonna make a little comment here about the repayment of debts, that is, loans. Those who've been following the leading US banks' financial reports may have noticed those who made profits in the second quarter of 2020 intentionally reduced the figures by sending billions of dollars into reserve funds. These are funds created to compensate for losses from future loans. So the bankers are getting ready for the situation when people and companies cannot repay their debts. And now back to Ray Dalio, as there is one way to solve this problem. As the billionaire explains, in a debt crisis, the only way a government can help everyone at once is by handing out checks to pay off their debts. But as mentioned earlier, there is no money to borrow because of the zero interest rate. So then we have two ways. One is to raise taxes. Obviously, this is not gonna work right now, and I don't think anyone would like that approach. The second option is to turn on the money printing machine and create new money. In economics, this process is called a budget deficit. The authorities should borrow, but who's gonna do that? The Federal Reserve is helping by simply printing dollars and buying government bonds for them. The proceeds are then used for business loans and social benefits for the population. Dalio points out that whereas previously there was a need to print money, they don't even do that today. It's enough to simply change the figures on the balance sheet in the digital world and thus create more and more dollars. And if you think the American currency has some limited amount and value, this claim is now very much in doubt, because you can create money very easily in unlimited amounts. However, the process is challenging to control. So the obvious question is, what is the real value of this money? And does it exist at all? In short, Dalio expects unprecedented inflation. And now we're gonna talk about the three main problems and a possible way out of them. As Ray Dalio suggests, we need to understand three important things that affect the current situation. The first one is printing new money that got out of control. The printing machine had been operating long before the coronavirus, and the stock markets collapsed. However, now production is unlimited. Let's take another step back. If you look at the statistics for the last few years, the debt burden has been increasing steadily, and the interest rate decline has in fact started since 2019. The rate was zero from 2009 to 2015 to fight the effects of the previous crisis. Then it began to go up, but was only able to get to 2.5% in 2019. And then the government again needed cheaper money. And then the quarantine happened and the rate dropped immediately to zero. The second important point is the gap between the rich and the poor and the level of social tension that's growing every year. Just giving money isn't gonna solve the problem, because benefits are actually designed to keep people paying their bills, so that they wouldn't go bankrupt, but they can't save up and make money work for them, generating additional income. It's also worth clarifying here that people who own most of the assets in real estate, as well as their car, are actually poor, because these assets don't generate income and have low liquidity, because you can't just sell your only home and the car gets cheaper every day. Moreover, you must pay taxes for using them. Those who are truly rich, on the contrary, they also have real estate, but this is commercial property that is rented out and generates income. Also, most of their assets are shares in their own business or in various companies and other securities. This may sound weird, but it is what it is. And if someone thinks that having an apartment and a car is a means of feeling safe and all set, it's nothing like that. In fact, such people are poor and they have to go to work every day to be able to pay taxes on their assets, which is kind of a paradox. And now, the third point that's important to understand. This is not the first time Ray Dalio has said that the US is losing global dominance. He mentioned it in his big interview for Bloomberg, which we have reviewed in one of our videos. You can find the link in the description box, in case you missed it. This time, he brought the subject up again. In the billionaire's view, we need to accept that the US is no longer the dominant power. As a consequence, the US dollar will gradually cease to be such a force. He doesn't even rule out the start of the so-called capital war between America and China, when countries start to prohibit the purchase of shares, limit the dividend payment, get companies of the stock market, get rid of securities, etc. Once it happens, we'll definitely make a video about it on YouTube. So subscribe please, so you don't miss anything. And now moving on to the central part of the video. What should we do in this situation? Ray Dalio is confident that if it weren't for the coronavirus, we would still be in the current difficult economic situation, because we have long been moving towards the end of a long-standing debt cycle. And the problem can be solved only when the economy grows, and revenues exceed the budget deficit. But what do you do? How do you survive a crisis? The billionaire's advice is pretty simple, and those who have financial literacy are aware of the three critical things: income, expenditure, and savings. Dalio says that everyone should have savings, and the first thing to do in a crisis is to calculate your spending and compare it to your savings. Next, you have to understand how many months you can keep your lifestyle if your income plummets or you earn nothing. If you aren't happy with the calculations, or if you have no savings at all, then you have to cut spending immediately. You'd be surprised how much you spend a month, like for a cup of coffee on your way to work or something. And when you put everything in order, get looking for an additional source of income to start building your savings. Subsequently, you will be able to move from creating capital for a rainy day, aka financial airbag, to accumulating assets. Bear in mind though, these should be the assets of the rich, like investing in the business through buying shares, into the state through treasury papers, into gold as a protective asset against inflation, and so on. I wish all of you financial wealth. You already have a basic set of tools you can use. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. It's the Coin Post channel. Subscribe and get enlightened.